Lunchtime Live, the show that allows you a unique access to the music, story, and words of the area's most phenomenal local artists and bands. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another edition of Lunchtime Live, coming to you from the campus of Cal State San Bernardino. I'm your host, Junior Ibarra, and I'm super excited about today's interview. We are here with frontman, lead singer of Dr Seahorse, Trevor Davis. Trevor, thank you for joining us, man.
Good to be here.
We're excited to have you, man. I know you've had so much experience growing up, and now even just the recent experience with The Voice. We'll get into that later. What we'll do is we want to let the listeners and the new people who haven't heard you and heard about you get to know you. Maybe start with some basic questions, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of things later on. First, I'm gonna say your bio online. It's one of the most enticing, inviting, captivating bios that I've ever read. Man, it grabs your attention, and the words that are used there, and it just makes you want to check out Dr. Seahorse, you know. And so kudos to whoever wrote that. And one of the things that I looked at and I said, that you and Mark, which is your producer and your drummer for the Dr. Seahorse, you guys both came up with something that is Michael Jackson meets Postal Service meets a Wes Anderson movie, and it's both emotionally honest, entertainingly quirky, and it's all those things. I was reading Michael Jackson, love that guy. Postal Service, love that guy. Wes Anderson, love that guy. So it's just all these guys came together and made Dr. Seahorse, and just makes me want to purchase the album. So let's go into who you are, what you do, what you're about, man. So let the listeners and the viewers know who this Trevor Davis that we hear of, who they speak of, this man they speak of.
Who am I?
Who are you? Who is this Trevor Davis?
This is a wide open question.
There you go.
Oh man, who am I? I would say that I definitely fit into Dr. Seahorse. I think that my identity is sort of placed in there because I think we are both quirky and fun, and then yet there's this sort of kind of heart-wrenching, kind of emotional, serious side of things as well happening. And I think kind of having those happen simultaneously is great. I think there's enough sort of comic relief that makes you feel comfortable going to some of the deeper places that we go as well. And I think that that's sort of who I am in person. It's like, when you can talk serious, but you want to crack a joke every once in a while, just to sort of not have it just be that, that would be, kind of weighty, and so, but yet at the same time, to act like, real things aren't happening in life is to not really face anything at all, or to grow or to learn. And so I think that that's probably in a nutshell sort of who I am.
Nice. Yes. Thank you. I feel like I know you a lot more now, from a deeper perspective. So tell us a little bit about Dr. Seahorse. I know you had your own solo project for a while, and you were working on that, and then Dr. Seahorse came around. And so tell us how Dr. Seahorse came into fruition. Is that a word?
Yeah,
is that fruition?
I like it.
Thanks. I was homeschooled. I tell people, so just a heads up, if you hear me mumble or misuse words, I blame my mom. So
yeah. Dr. Seahorse came about. I almost want to say it's an accidental project. In the sense of it ended up being a band. It first started with an idea that I wanted to come up with a record that, because I always did, acoustic music, slightly acoustic music, with other instruments and keys and strings and things, and always full drums and things like that, kind of beat-oriented acoustic music. So there was always this sort of beat side of me happening, and then there was always this sort of acoustic side, and I kind of wanted to come out with a record that I hired two completely different producers. One that would take it, my acoustic side, and actually completely strip it from any sort of kind of beat-oriented things, and kind of maybe be more sort of lap steel and kind of take it more country than I ever would have done, and then have hire somebody else who ended up being Mark, my bandmate for Dr. Seahorse, and have him produce. Who I've heard him do electronic music, and I thought he was amazing at it, and so I was like, let him do the same 5 songs, so have 5 songs produced by this and the same 5 songs produced by Mark, and then put them on the same record, and so it'd be kind of electronic. And back in the day, I think that was when I first came up with that concept. Now it's sort of just became pop, but back in the day that was when you did real, like, you know, a little more upbeat electronic, that was almost considered like kind of club or something like that. And then this being more country, so I was actually going to call the record Country Club. Yeah, totally. And what happened was the country producer was just so busy and it just kept getting delayed. And then Mark was just flinging out songs. And I was like, man, these songs are so good that I kind of don't want to make sort of a gimmick out of it. It's so good that I almost think it can stand alone. Yeah. And so it started as sort of an alter ego, sort of side project of mine. But then as we didn't know how we were going to perform or do anything like that, because I just was going to just release it online, not let it be something I ever actually take seriously at all. Just be like, hey, there's a fun expression that I came up with the other day. Do you guys like it? And then we tried to attempt to perform it live. We were like scared to death. We're like, how do we do this? You know, and I had like my vocals going through guitar pedals. I grabbed any bells or whistles that I could find, you know, because I wasn't going to do the acoustic thing. So I had to like try to do something else, you know. And so I just started doing different things. And through that first show alone, we sort of already learned what we don't want to do, and we already learned what we wanted to do. But just from that first show alone, our response was so amazing. I think because people were like, what is this? This is so different from you, and there's so much energy, and I can sense that there's so much more abandonment, you know, like to just not have to be behind the guitar and just sort of like kind of go buck wild. And so as we did that, we just kept refining our show, and then and now, you know, we became a band, and we take it very serious, and we play colleges all over the United States, and it's really easy because it's just two of us, so we actually can fit all of our gear, you know, on a Southwest flight where you get to take on 2 free carry-ons. Exactly. And we just fly all over the place, get in a little rental car, usually a Ford Focus or something like that, and play colleges all over the place.
That's awesome. You know, and that's the cool thing is to see the journey that you guys, you know, were on and are on, and the process that it's been, and how it's evolved into this sound of Dr. Seahorse. And to see, I know you guys started in 2007, and you know, when the electronic scene was different, you know, it was different from what it is now, and it was more of the underground. No one knew what it was. Your mom and dad told you to stay away from it, and then whatnot. I mean, it was just my mom and dad told me to stay away. But now it's more the thing that people are accepting of, you know, that it's very accepting and very open, and of to these different visions and approaches to things, you know. And I hear you're a dancer too. I know I've seen.
I wouldn't give it a full title, but I do move my body.
There you go. You got the gloves on and everything, man. Yeah. So it's cool. You know, it's a whole production. You know, it's not just, oh, this is our song, we're gonna play it live exactly how it was on the album. You know, but we're gonna make a production out of it. We're gonna make a show out of it, which is very inviting, you know, for people. And that's what I'm excited about today, is for the listeners and the viewers and your fans to hear these songs of Dr. Seahorse played acoustically, you know. And those are some of the best writers that are able to take such a produced song, layered song, and just strip it down to make it still amazing. You know. So I'm super stoked to hear these songs. And now let's talk about the name Dr. Seahorse. Where did you guys come up with?
I wrote a song years ago that I would tour. You know, I'd plan a tour, and I'd like, you know, be in some other state somewhere and return like years later, and I would play this particular song, and that was a slow song, like in, you know, 6/8 time, if any of you don't know that, or, you know, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and that doesn't usually tend to be a pop song, let's say, popular song, and but the title of this song was Dr. Seahorse. And I would play the song, and then I would tour again back in that state like a year or two later, and they'd be like, play Dr. Seahorse. I'm like, how do you even remember that name? And that song is not like a catchy song or anything to it. Like, why are you singing? I think they just liked it because of the title. And so I was like, there's something to this title that, like, I want to maybe sort of, you know, use this song for what really the creative best thing that came out of the song was maybe just the title. And so taking that title and using it as a band name. And so here we are, Dr. Seahorse.
Nice, man. Yeah, it's an original name.
Yeah.
So it sticks with you, you know, and that's the.
There's sort of like a seriousness and sophistication in Doctor, and then a quirkiness with Seahorse.
So I don't know whether to laugh or
to cry, or turn my head and cough, or what,
or just walk away, no. So is this what you do full time? Just music?
Is, yeah. And I've been doing that for a while now, and I kind of have to wear quite a few hats to pull it all off. But as you sort of develop and say more yeses, I'll play at your bar mitzvah. You start getting good at a lot of things that are quote unquote musical, and you kind of like learn to be flexible and make it work.
Nice, man. It's such a blessing to be able to do that, because a lot of people these days and a lot of musicians these days, they work in the day and then they're a musician by night, but being able to focus on your music 100% is scary sometimes, but it's so fulfilling. It's so fulfilling. And so enough talk for now. We're going to get into a song and let the listeners and the viewers hear a song from you. We're going to be, I believe we're going to be playing Symptoms of Trend, this song, and it's one of the first songs you wrote for Dr. Seahorse. Give us a little background of this track.
I was kind of like trying to study songwriting and even study my past catalog of songs that I've written and say, like, what has worked? Like, what are people gravitating towards, and what are we wanting to hear? What songs do I even like and didn't recognize that I liked, And I kind of realized that this sort of like triumphant anthem, if you will, songs like U2, even like in the name of, and there's all these songs like that, even Muse or different bands, and they have like sort of like this triumphant sort of, let's all get together and march somewhere or something. I don't know. Or they can stay still and hold arms, yes, for sure.
Or march while holding arms.
They can do lots of things, but just as long as they're together. And so I was studying that, and I tried to come up with a song that was like that, and it just came out so cheesy. It just came out this sort of we are the world or something like that, and it just was so bad, and I didn't like it at all. And but then I realized I liked a lot of some of the lyrical content that I came up with in the song, and then I was listening to which is not my typical thing to listen to, but I was actually listening to a Nine Inch Nails track, and I just kind of liked the swag that it had and just sort of the energy that it had. And I was like, what if I take some of the kind of inspiration that I came up with in this sort of like slow ballady, kind of triumphant song and stick it in this sort of like funner type of track, and use this as an inspiration piece to kind of springboard me into what I feel like could be like a fun electronic song. And so I kind of did that, and how I write these songs is I write them on acoustic first. For every song that you hear on the Seahorse record is usually written on guitar, and then I go to his house and play it on the kind of computery keyboard, which for non-musicians, that's what I'm calling it. Musicians, a MIDI keyboard, that. And so I do that and I kind of deliver that information to him, and then he sort of tweaks with it for a long time. And so, but this is again just where it all started. This is sort of like I came up with the cheesy version, then this is sort of the more upbeat version, and then on my record you can hear the actual end result. But this is sort of the beginnings.
Nice. Well, let's hear the beginnings.
Symptoms of Trend. Here it goes like this. Let us erase blurry sight and not embrace injustice. Let us turn down all the noise. Busy swallows our compass. We don't know where to go, 'cause our heart walks in circles. Our head plugs into walls, and we shackle our own liberty. So let's stand so to fight the symptoms of trend feels like a war. Stand so, let's lift our voices louder than before. May we not sink, but be a bird. Remember who we are and what we heard. May we stand up above the sea and not forget to keep our eyes on thee. We will learn how to float when our feet stop their kicking. Our strength is very small, but through dependence we'll find victory. So let's stand so to fight the symptoms of trend feels like a war. Stand so, let's lift our voices That sort of doesn't sound like the real thing. But
I know, exactly.
That's the idea of it.
That's the idea of it. And for those that are just tuning in, we heard a song from man Trevor Davis of Dr. Seahorse, Symptoms of Trend. And if you've never heard any of their tracks from Dr. Seahorse, it's such a different sounding from their acoustic to the recorded track, but they both stand alone. And I find it hard to believe that the cheesy version wouldn't be successful, because I feel like you can take any song and make it a hit. You can take a simple cheesy nursery rhyme and make that a hit. And so it's so cool to see the difference between the recorded track and the acoustic track, but they both stand alone and just put a smile on my face. So I want to ask, how long have you been involved with music?
I grew up in like a sort of a all African-American gospel church, and I was the only white kid there, and they stuck me in choir, and it was like a little kids choir thing, and Easter, they did those little performances on Easter, and both years out of all the males, they gave me the solo. I was singing in the back, trying to hide because I was this little shy kid, but I guess they heard my voice stick out, and they made me sing the solos, and that was sort of my breakout moment. And then after those 2 years, I actually didn't sing anymore, and just put my head back in my shell and just stayed shy till my senior year of high school.
Wow.
It wasn't that till then I actually sang again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was either your voice, your skin color that made you stand out, either one, or both.
Yeah.
So what made you want to pick up, or were you just thrown into the choir then, or did you say, hey, Mom, I want to...
Every kid was in the choir.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, for those little Easter performances.
Nice.
So it wasn't like a year-round thing. It was just this one little Easter performances.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I hear that gospel-y and that gospel.
Yeah,
in
that
your
was like
voice.
the first music I ever heard.
Nice.
So even in my head, when I try to interpret, any type of rock music, that's how I almost would say my style is. It doesn't have a, if someone marketing label person was like, what style are you? I can make up something, but I really feel like I'm niching myself. But really, it's like I can sing a rock and roll song, but even if I don't try to be soulful at all, it just comes in there. So for me, it's like my style is whatever I think of, folky, rock, something like that. It always is gonna have a little smidge of soul.
Yeah, exactly. And that's whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
right? It's gonna be there. And I feel that Mickey Echo voice in you. It's just very soulful, very
cool.
passionate.
I like that.
And he's a great.
Yeah, we have similar timing.
Yeah, exactly.
To be musical for a second. Yeah.
Maybe, I know he's a faithful listener too. So maybe one day.
Does he go here?
No. Sorry, bad joke. I'm sorry. Now, with your guitar, what made you want to pick up the guitar? We heard about you singing. Now, what about you playing guitar? What?
My cousin, he was like a rock and roller, leather pants guy who lived in Boston. Boston was like, second best electric guitar player or something like that, and he actually moved to San Diego for a little bit, which is where I'm from, and he would just be practicing. He would stay at my grandma's house, who lived next door to me, and he would just be on the porch just playing every day, just practicing, and I think that sort of put a little bug in me that made me think I wanted to play guitar, and so then I got one in 7th grade, and the thing just intimidated me to death. I learned like a couple of Nirvana songs and then just set it down and actually sold it. And then later on in high school, I started playing the bass. Again, better option for a shy person to be on the bass versus like electric guitar or something. So I started playing the bass and actually really liked that. And then again, I started singing my senior year. So I was like, what do I do with this, bass? And while singing, it kind of didn't really match up. I kind of wanted to write songs, but I didn't really know how to do the bass songwriting thing, and I don't think anybody else has figured that out either, besides like Primus or something. But so I decided I was going to pick up the guitar, even though I kind of regrettingly did it because I felt like the guitar sounded like Kumbaya campfire songs. When I heard the G or D, chord, I heard a million songs that weren't my song. They were another person's song, and so that didn't inspire me to actually write anything. And I think it wasn't until someone showed me this chord right here. Sounds a little bit like not a campfire, but a candlelight dinner or something. And that just totally went from a fiery, crackly fire to just
transported
to like something. So I heard that chord and I wrote my first song.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Nice. It's and I noticed you're left-handed. You know,
Yes.
I noticed that years ago, and you know, I felt like we were bonded, you know, together as one. Because of that, being left-handed myself, and I thought I was the only one by myself.
Yeah, no, we're marching together.
Nice. We're marching together.
Or just holding arms or whatever.
Holding arms.
If you want to be more lazy and not move, yeah, we can just hold each other's left hands.
Make sure it's left and southpaw, southpaw. Now, we talked about if a label approached you and your sound. So if they did approach you, how would you describe your sound to them? If they asked for a genre, what would you say specifically?
Yeah, and I think when it comes to anything like a really great cook or anybody that's able to do, anybody that's gifted at something, they can do multiple things. It isn't like the guy who started In-N-Out can only make a burger. But I think when it comes to marketing and trying to be heard, like again, even when we speak and you're asking me this question, I can really only choose kind of one answer at a time. And so for me, I guess I would just have to choose. And I think looking at this modern day and age, what music is happening, it's really, really, really tough for me because I feel like I'm always sort of in between, sort of like an example, like someone like a Mickey Echo, who for any of you who don't know who that is that guy that sings with Rihanna on that song Stay. And like some like almost like MGMT sort of like fun, slightly indie sound. And so I think that I'm somewhere in a mix between those two worlds, and I do believe they can collide. I'm trying to think of an example. Actually, I think recently someone who I think is kind of like bringing two worlds together and doing a really good job at it and has really inspired me because of it is James Blake. And you guys know James Blake?
Man,
you guys don't know James Blake?
Please.
Listen to him.
Please, dude. Oh,
Butter
my gosh.
on your toast.
Oh, my God. Like, just the perfect amount of butter on your toast, too. Because if you put too much, it just it takes over the toast. But this guy...
takes over the
toast. Sorry, I'm just super passionate about this guy, you can tell.
Me too.
He's... Oh, my gosh.
You might actually be more, actually, now that I'm watching you.
Man, see, it must be the left-handed thing. Left-handed James Blake. My gosh, man.
We need to hang out with that guy. Like, between the two of us, someone needs to figure out how to contact him.
We'll figure it out. Well, we got to take a little break, but when we come back, we'll continue talking with Trevor Davis from Dr Seahorse. But don't forget that Dr Seahorse and hundreds of other great local bands can be heard 24/7 on Coyote Radio. Listen online at radio.csusb.edu or simply Google Coyote Radio, Cal State, and enjoy. Let's take a little break, but when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Trevor Davis from Dr Seahorse. Stick around.